The official kickoff to the summer season is here. Memorial Day right around the corner with another record-breaking number of people set to travel for the long holiday weekend. Join us now to help us understand what to expect this weekend and what it may mean for you and your family travel plans is Aixa Diaz. She's a AAA spokesperson. Really grateful for your time and happy early Memorial Day. I'm sure this is a very busy time of year, especially for you.
Hi, JD. It sure is. You know, I feel like we've been talking about record travel now for a couple of years, and we have. Post-COVID, we've really seen a surge in holiday travel, and here we are again. We're talking about another projected record.
So let's talk more about that projected record. I believe over 45 million Americans expected to travel here, really just within the next few within the next few days, I should say. What is driving this particular surge in a holiday movement?
Well, road trips are really driving the surge here. 45.1 million is a new holiday record for Memorial Day from AAA. We've been looking at Memorial Day travel since 2000. So it's been 25 years that we've been looking at this, and this will be the highest year. Road travel is really what's driving it. So we're projecting a record 39.4 million people will be traveling by car. And there's a reason for that. Obviously, road trips are easy. They offer flexibility. You can leave whenever you want, come back when you want, and they tend to be cheaper for most people. Road trips are the most viable way to travel for the majority of people. That's not to say that air travel is having a slump at all. I mean, we're projecting a 2% increase in air travel with more than 3.5 million people flying. So plenty of people are flying, but the majority of people will be driving, 87% of the total number of people who are hitting the road. And that's because, again, not only is it easy, it's cheaper, and over Memorial Day, if you have children especially who are still in school, you may not be able to take off that much time. So unlike July 4th, where people may go farther, a lot of people tend to stay a little bit closer over Memorial Day weekend. So a road trip's nice because you can drive a couple of hours away to the beach or the lake or the mountains and then come back in time for the kids to be back in school on Tuesday.
Is the decline in oil prices overall that we've seen a bit of a macroeconomic contributor to what you're expecting to be a boost of traveling on the road? I mean, I think anecdotally it's a lot easier, I'd imagine, for families and for parents to look up at their local gas station and say, hey, I remember when it was 60 cents higher a gallon this time last year, or whatever it is, and say, hey, maybe that encourages us to hit the road when otherwise we might not.
You know, it's interesting. AAA has done surveys on this, and back when gas was over $4 a gallon a couple of years ago, we asked people, you know, what's your tipping point? Is there a number where it's going to prevent you from traveling? And ultimately they said, you know what, we're probably going to still travel anyway. So gas prices don't tend to be a motivator or a detractor when it comes to travel, but it's certainly a bonus. It's certainly psychologically, it's nice to, like you said, you look up and you're like, well, gosh, it's nice to be paying whatever $3.10 versus $3.50. Last Memorial Day weekend last year, we were paying about 40 cents more. So gas prices are cheaper across the board right now because the price of crude oil has been lower this year so far. So that certainly helps, but it's not really a motivator so much. Certainly, though, it could be if somebody's looking for a last minute trip. And that's another reason why road trips are so popular, because people can do that last minute, whereas you're probably not going to do a last minute flight.
I gotta say, Aixa, I think maybe I lucked out. I just had a wedding in Mexico last weekend, so flew into Cancun, and the airports were surprisingly light. That's true both for JFK here in New York City as well as a popular destination like Cancun. I think maybe it was sort of the calm before the holiday storm, so maybe I just sort of lucked out with the wedding.
And I think also, and I think the location played a role there as well, because I also traveled this past weekend where it was not Memorial Day and it wasn't Mother's Day. It was sort of a random May weekend, but because domestically it's graduation season, we were traveling to celebrate a family birthday. The airport in Baltimore was pretty packed. So I really think it depends on also seasonally where you're talking about. And our forecast for the holidays only looks at domestic travel. So someone like you who would go to Mexico, let's say over Memorial Day weekend, you wouldn't be included in that 45 million. So even more people than that are traveling. We're just talking about domestic travelers.
Are there particular destinations you expect to be more popular in the U.S. than others for Memorial Day weekend?
Well, when it comes to flying, certainly Florida. You know, Central Florida is always going to be high on the list. I used to live there, Orlando. I mean, tourists love it, kids love it, theme parks, there's lots of resorts, things to do, but also there's a cruise port there. In Central Florida, Port Canaveral is a busy cruise port. Miami is also high on the top destinations list because of their cruise port as well. Seattle's high on the list. not only because Seattle's a beautiful city, but also Alaska cruises are big this time of year. And that's a condensed season because you can't do it year round. So that's also very popular. And then you've got those tourist places like New York City, Chicago, but also Denver and Las Vegas, not only because they're fun cities, but also people will fly in, rent a car, and then drive to the national parks.
I got to ask, in terms of air travel, there's always the concern about congestion, about delays, and now you take all of that and you compound it on top of the really challenging news as of late out of Newark Airport with regards to air traffic controllers and diminished numbers and people reading about frayed copper wires breaking down the systems. What are your expectations for what all of that may look like for the conversation for the busy holiday travel weekend, and what should people keep top of mind when they head to the airport?
There's so much you can't control when you travel, especially when you're flying. Obviously, when you're driving, you can at least make sure that your car's in good shape, you've got an emergency kit, and then you hope for the best on the road. When you're flying, there's a lot that's not in your control. So control what you can. First of all, if you're driving to the airport, don't take for granted you're going to find a parking spot. Reserve airport parking ahead of time. You can do that at many airports now because those garages fill up fast. There's also off-site places like the parking spot where you park at these businesses. They'll drive you to the terminal. But think about that. I would avoid checking a bag if possible. What happens when you check a bag is that at that point your bag's out of your control. And now if something happens, there's a delay or a cancellation, now you've got to worry about, I got to go get my bag before I can figure out what to do next. If you have a carry-on, you don't have to worry about that. But always go into it with a plan B. Think about, okay, what's the worst case scenario? Let's say my flight got canceled. Let's say there's a meltdown at the airport. The power's out, there's no flights. What are you going to do? Are you going to get back in your car and drive to the destination? Are you going to cancel the trip? Are you going to maybe go to a different trip? So I would always be prepared with a plan B and C in your head, right? You don't have to act on it, but at least that'll give you some sort of peace of mind and calm. Because the reality is so many people travel over the holidays. Airports are going to be packed. A lot of people who don't travel maybe during other times of the year are going to be flying. They will require extra patience. But there's so much you can't control when it comes to the airlines, when it comes to the weather. Will there be a storm that delays your flight? So if that happens, what are you going to do? Do you have a plan B? And that's why if you're planning any big trips this summer, especially international, consider travel insurance, and AAA travel agents help with this, where they'll set you up with some travel insurance to protect that investment you made. Because if there is a meltdown at a big airport and you have an international flight, at least your hotel will be covered, meals will be covered. Those are the things you have to think about.
Finally, I'm really curious, any tips you have for people looking to try and save a little bit of money? And I ask you that, Aixa, because here in the backdrop of the global financial markets, we talk about the macroeconomic conditions right now that are in so many ways putting little bits of downward pressure on consumer confidence and therefore consumer spending. People may say, hey, I still want to take part of the experience economy. I want to get in the car, but I want to try and figure out ways to make it a little bit more cost friendly. What do you tell those people?
Well, and you just said it, the word experience, right? People want experiences now more so than maybe physical things. So perhaps if you're traveling, don't buy the souvenir. Do you really need more stuff? But use that time and money that you do have on a meal with your family. But even when we talk about food, even packing extra snacks in the car or with you when you go to the airport, that saves you those. Because when I go to the airport, I'm always tempted by the snacks and the chips and the chocolates. But if I bring my own and I've bought those from home where I know what I'm paying there, they're going to be more expensive at the airport. So think about packing things that you won't then be tempted to spend on when you're at the airport or when you're at a convenience store, when you stop to get gas. Think about those things that you can cut out from your spending budget. But also as you're planning ahead for the summer, when you book flights, look for those Tuesday, Wednesday flights versus weekend flights. Those tend to be more expensive because that's when most people want to travel. And again, going back to checking bags, if you don't check bags, you can save some money on that too.
Bring snacks.
Yes.
You don't have to tell me twice. I'm a big snack fan. Aixa Diaz, I'm so grateful for the great perspective ahead of what is sure to be a very busy, long holiday travel weekend. Aixa is the AAA spokesperson. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, JD.